Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday. Welcome to another live video. My name is Daniel McCrane with McCrane Associates, and small business owners come to us for assistance increasing their profitability, scalability, and legacy because we actually guarantee that we can do those things. So today, I want to talk a little bit about the beneficial owner information report that was required under the Corporate Transparency Act. Some of you know about this, you've heard about it, you've heard me talk about it. Others of you, this may be brand new, this may be news to you. But this report has been in the news lately, and so I want to do a little bit of update on it. So first of all, those who don't know anything about this at all, there was a federal act that went into effect January 1st of this year. It's called the Corporate Transparency Act. And the whole idea is to cut down on using American businesses as shell corporations that own other shell corporations that own other shell companies and so on and so forth as a way to launder money. So there are terrorists, there are others who are using American companies to launder money and bring it into the US and make it look like it is legal money. So the act was passed, and that was the whole point. So very noble sort of approach to trying to create the corporate transparency, and the idea being that for law enforcement investigating financial crimes, that they could find out who the owners of the companies were. So it makes a lot of sense. In fact, the U.S. is one of the last countries in the first world economies around the world to have an act like this. Although the way that it was written has some problems. So, as part of the Corporate Transparency Act, like I said, it went into effect January 1st of this year. It was bipartisan support when it was passed. Um, it was actually championed by Republicans. If anyone's thinking about, government oversight and overstepping its bounds and things like that, thinking that one party tends to do that more than the other. This is bipartisan. It was championed by the Republicans. It was signed by a Republican president, to the best of my knowledge, if I understand things correctly. But what this act says is that all businesses in the United States must file a report with FinCEN. That's the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It's a branch of the U.S. Treasury. It is a sister organization to the IRS. So every business has to file this report with FinCEN. You have to indicate who the beneficial owners are. You have to indicate who has substantial control of the company. So it's not enough just to say, "Oh, well, I'm going to put somebody else's name on the someone who's willing to take the fall for me, so to speak." Who would be willing to do that for you, by the way? But anyway, but if that leaves you with control of the company, even though your name is not on it for ownership, you still have to indicate that you have control over the company. Look, it's a federal law. Talk about anonymity, whatever you want to. The whole idea being, though, that that information will stay within FinCEN and will not be shared externally from FinCEN unless there is a valid reason to investigate a financial crime. Okay, all that said, so businesses that were formed prior to 2024 had a deadline of the end of this year to file that report. By the end of 2024, you had to file that report for your business. Any businesses that were created during this year, you had 90 days from the day that the state approved your company to file this report. So just 90 days. Now, there have been two challenges to this law. One occurred back in April. Maybe you heard about it. It was the National Small Business Association. I'm messing up that name. And so the court said, yes, the act is unconstitutional, and only the members of that small business association were exempt from filing if you were a member prior to the court ruling. That was only about 30,000 small businesses in the United States. Everyone else was still required to file. Now, recently, you may have heard in the news, this is the more interesting thing. There was a federal court that recently placed an injunction on this law. Now, does not mean that the law is unconstitutional. It does not throw the law out. All it means is there is a temporary hold. And so this means that the enforcement, all the penalties and everything else that would go along with the law are currently on hold. Now, here's what you need to know. The federal government is appealing that decision. That could be overturned soon. The judge could even decide to yank that injunction back, which means the law would now be in force. And if you delay filing, you may find yourself in a situation where now you are scrambling to try to file your report before the deadline to avoid all the stiff penalties. So I'm going to leave it up to you to do what you think is right. You could follow the law, assuming that it's going to be coming back to make sure that you don't miss any deadlines and get hit with penalties. Or you could wait this out and see what's going to happen. Your call. But what I want you to know is the law is still the law. It's only a temporary hold on the law. And I'll let you do with that what you want to do. But that's the most important thing that I want you to take away from this recent court ruling that came out last week. Okay, so with that, I usually like to keep these shorter than I've gone today, so I'm going to stop here. So